Hi, my name is Alan Court. I am the owner of the Kiddywinkles Early Learning Centres in New Zealand. Welcome to our Building Kids for Greatness podcast, where we have had the opportunity to interview some wonderful people, including Hollywood A-lister Vince Vaughn and one of New Zealand's top celebrities on TV in the children's space, Susie Cato. Today, I have another wonderful guest, and I'm very, very happy to welcome Jess Robertson, someone who's spent over 25 years working closely with children, and over half that time she's actually dedicated to the early learning space. Jess has developed an understanding of what young families face because she's supported and worked alongside children, parents, and educators, and it's all very real for her because she's actually been through schools throughout Australia and seen everyday settings. Now she mentors teachers, works alongside parents, and runs programs that help children truly feel seen, heard, and valued. And they are really, really key things that we all understand. I was fortunate just a few weeks ago, actually, to see Jess present at the Sydney Opera House to a room of 800 professional business people, and now I look forward to hearing what Jess will be able to share with us. A very warm welcome to you, Jess.
Thanks, Alan. That was a wonderful intro. So it was lovely to meet you just the same and bump into each other and find out about what you're doing for families and children as well in your work.
Thank you. Now, we'll start off, you founded your business Journey Together. What was the initial thought behind your business when you started, and has the approach changed in how you support families and educators?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I guess it evolved itself with my work with children and families, and I always wanted to do more and help more and shape more. So working and starting in the schools and working one-on-one with a lot of children as well over the years made me see that the adults around them needed a lot of guidance and understanding. Yes, I had that lens one-on-one with the child, but the impact and the change really took shape when the adults and the educators were involved systemically around the child, and that really empowered the child and created the change. And I realized that the family connection was the number one, and then the classroom connection was the number two in the child's life. Very important to bring those worlds together and collaborate with those adults, whether it's at the front of a classroom setting or in your early learning centres where you're the carer and the educator in one, and the safe space. It was important to bring that all together. So that evolved my one-on-one work, and I got invited into many schools through that and into many classrooms and kinders and early childhood centres to create that change in a wider scale. So that's where Journey Together sort of took shape on its own over the years.
And I think it's fantastic because, as you say, growing up is not and should not be in isolation, and to actually bring the we call it whānau, the Māori word for family, together, and educators as well, makes that solid learning experience for a child.
And, we've evolved in society where we're really busy. Parents are really busy. Families are overscheduled. That village historically and intergenerationally is not as present in our week to weeks as it used to be. And that's globally. It's not just Australia. It's not just New Zealand. Technology has taken a big part of that too. So work doesn't switch off for many adults when they get home. And therefore the children really rely on those primary caregivers, the educators, to be that village now.
Well, just touching on that, we all live very, very busy lives, and how does a person stay present? Because that's you mentioned that, and that's one of the things that, even when I'm in a situation, my mind is going flat out as to other things that I have to do, but I have to pull myself back in to actually to be present at certain times. How do you encourage that, and how does it actually work?
Yeah, and it's really difficult, as you said, Alan, in the present moment. Everything is fast-paced, next. And our children are living that way. Our family lives are set up that way in the classroom or in early childhood centres. you've got the next routine, next schedule, instead of living in that moment. It's about, I work with lots of adults about finding those micro moments. We work a lot on noticing the small things, not adding more to your plate, not adding more on the schedule or more strategies that you might be missing or scripts that you need to find to say with a child. It's about noticing those micro moments. So it could be in the routines of the morning. Notice and be present, have a meaningful conversation. It's about where your body is when you're positioned as an educator in the room, when you've got lots of little humans that are wanting your time and attention and connection. Where are you? Have you got your back to them? Are you speaking? Are you making eye contact? What's that child showing you in that moment when you're in the car ride, going to and from your scheduled places? Are you dismissing it because you're rushing through the routines, or are you making time to really stop and say, I wonder how your day was today, or what was the best part of your week? Reflect with them, get them to reflect. They're the moments that hold and are often just breezed over. If you have a think about your time with a child, whether it's in your family, in your care, in your classroom setting, how many did you just miss to get to the next routine or the next schedule or the next appointment? So just stopping and, as you said, Alan, being in that present moment is the most impactful thing that you could do to connect with a child.
And I really like what you talk about with your micro moments, and you talk about that in your book, Moments That Matter. And if anyone listening, you can get that book off amazon.com.au, or probably amazon.com as well. So I encourage you to look at that. Jess, can you elaborate when you talk about micro moments? I understand what you're saying with the little things that are so important. How do those small interactions have a lasting impact on a child?
Well, number one, they feel seen. When you really lean into their world and make those micro moments noticeable, and they can see.
That's coming back to what you talk about, the importance of a child being seen and being heard and feeling valued.
Yeah, and it's not even extra things, it's things that are already there in front of you. It teaches them that they matter as well, that those moments do matter, as I say in the book, because they're already there and you're making it meaningful. And these are the things that we get to model for our children too, that before us. If we want them to show up in the world being present, noticing each other as human to human contact, where are they going to grab that learning from? They're going to grab it from us, the adults in their world, whether it's an educated, allied health professional, a family member, a friend, the parent. That's where they learn that. And they learn that those routines are not just a system of the day, that they're actually about connecting with each other. So they'll use them, they'll hold that, and they'll use that in the future with their relationships, their friendships, even how they're respectful in a classroom setting when they're 14 or 15. They'll notice those moments and it will hold for them.
That's why it's so important, that connection with parents or educators, because the children actually look up to those people for guidance.
Yeah,
and if they are there.
Yeah, and where you're working is where it all starts, the foundations.
Yes.
So, yeah.
The one thing I love when I met you and to hear you speak and to talk with you is that not only are you working with children in primary school, going right up to 18 years old, you also are a teacher, and you've spent over 12 years in the early learning sector, which is the area in which we provide education. So you have lots of insights into tiny minds, and those tiny minds are like sponges, are absolutely fantastic. Can you share a pivotal moment from your career that shaped your approach to child's development? And are there society changes that require you to constantly change? Because society is just crazy. It's just changing all the time. So.
A pivotal moment. Well, there are so many. I worked with infants from babies of 6 weeks of age all the way up to kinder. So
I'd love you to come and teach in our centres. Come on.
I can come and mentor your educators too. I do that in Melbourne. So
Good on
welcome
you.
to
Yeah.
come to New Zealand. It's on my bucket list to visit, Alan. So you're giving
There
me
we
a
are.
reason.
An international educator. Love it.
Yeah, that's right. But I started my career running a baby's room with 14 babies and 4 educators under my umbrella. So I literally was there from the infancy stage, 5 days a week up until kinder teaching 3 to 5 year olds. I guess I could not pick just one because all those children shaped how I viewed them, but just actually stopping and pausing and being invited into a child's world. If you can do that, that is pure gold for you and that child. To see them past their behaviors was a massive turning point for me. You've got the externalizing behaviors that you're wanting to pacify and support, and you've got children presenting every day with internalizing the quiet children. I wanted to always, and I guess that shaped my work now, I always saw past the behavior and saw what the child's experience is. There was one child that I actually bumped into in one of the schools, and that was an internalizer child. I started with that child at 3 years of age in my kinder. And when I bumped into that child, they were thriving. This internalizer child, it's not just me. There was other educators and other realms. I'm not taking credit, but I noticed that I leaned in every time they came in quiet and reserved, let them warm up, make sure that they were able to stay next to me for as long as they needed without judgment. Noticing them along the way, seeing them. I'm seeing it's a bit tricky right now. How about you come and stand next to me while I'm doing the tasks? Didn't judge them for not interacting yet. Within a few months, I remember they warmed up. They started to form some friendships because they kept coming back. I was their safe base. Every time they were in my care, without judgment, without words, they were still coming back to me. And eventually they didn't come back. They never stay in the same space. They grow, learn, and evolve at different rates. And this particular child needed that time. When you give them that time, they will thrive. If you judge
the fact that they didn't come back sort of says it all, that you helped them move from the space that they were in to gaining the confidence and spreading their wings.
Yeah, not judge. And then when I did see them in the school, they were auditioning for a school production. If you told me that that child was going to be on stage singing and dancing and performing back when they were 3 to 5 years of age, sometimes you wouldn't believe it. But if you give them that space to grow, evolve, learn, and thrive without judgment and without dismissing it, now I saw that child in their element with lots of friends, social. So it was really
that
moment.
And that's so great because that's where it's starting from such an early age. And that is why I believe early learning centres are so critical in terms of a child's development, because they can be given that confidence, they're learning the social skills. And I am that's one of my real passions at this stage, is to ensure that children get the social skills that are required, because that gives them the confidence, it gives them the belonging, it gives them the self-esteem to actually springboard from that in primary school.
And making sure that you do that without judgment. You just create the safe space, and that is in your body language. That's in the words you say to them. I remember that some educators were feeling a bit uncomfortable with some of my methods, and that was okay with me, because I knew what my greater purpose was. This child also that I'm referring to was an internalizer that didn't speak much, and that educators would really want the conversation. And I queried an educator one time of saying, I'm wondering if you would need them to talk for you or for them. And when I posed that question, that educator went, oh, I need the communication. Well, that's a you job to maybe fulfill. So I do confrontational conversations quite well, and that educator did change the way they looked at that. They didn't push the child to talk to them.
Well, and that's where I think what you're doing is fantastic, because you are educating the educator, and somebody has to do that.
Yeah.
And through your experience.
This educator wasn't trying to do harm or wrong by the child. But once you bring the awareness, because awareness is key, they could step inside and see what it was like for that child.
Right. And if they haven't had the guidance or the mentoring in that situation, they would never change. So, I mean, that's why our journey of learning is just constant. In most children's lives, a constant is the family life.
Yes.
But as a child develops, there are changes in the way they see things, the way they relate to things. And how does a parent know the best way to navigate through these years? And are there different strategies to deal with that? Because I've had 3 boys, I've gone through all the different stages as I've been growing up, and it can be very difficult.
Yeah, as we've discussed, we're both on the other end of that development with my children and your children. It is difficult to navigate, but it depends what stage of development they're at, because when you've got the early years, I often say that they're like little puppy dogs. They think that you are the best. You come home, they're so excited. They're just, you could do no wrong, and you're just the love of their life. They look.
You know what? Just to interrupt you very quickly, I often say the children are like little puppy dogs here, because it doesn't matter what their day was like yesterday. They've forgotten it. They come and they run up to you.
And even if you had a tough moment with them as an adult and you think, oh, they're holding that, no, they've forgotten. They love you again. You know, they're like ready to go. And then when they're getting towards the 8 to 10-year-olds, which they're seeping out of the early childhood and into the pre-adolescence and the childhood phase, they really should focus to friends heavy. And it's a balance then. And their needs are met. You know, they might have wanted to do 50 extracurricular activities when they were younger, and now it's narrowed down to a niche market. They're understanding who they are. They're getting more autonomy. They start the back chat and the disconnect a little bit, because they're testing the boundaries a little bit more, and what you say is not as important to how they're feeling. Whereas when they're younger, they will listen. They will, you know, push the limits, push the boundaries, but they'll take on what you're saying. Now they're getting more autonomy, and it's a bit more challenging because they're getting their own voice, their own thoughts and feelings of where they want to sit in the world. And then teenagers are a little bit more like cats. So if you lean into, they come to you and you lean in too hard, they run away. And
that's a good analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll take you or leave you as long as you're providing the roof over their head and food and all the necessities. They're like, oh, no, we need that still from you, but we don't want you too close, because our friends are number one. So friends are number one, and the adults in their world are definitely number 2 when it comes to 12 years and above. And their brains have logical thinking patterns cemented by then. So they're understanding, before that, they're not understanding if they take step 1, 2, 3, what the outcome might be at 4, 5, 6. But when they're at 12 and above, they're understanding the outcome quite well. They may be a bit more risk-taking with it because they're wanting to learn about the world, but they are definitely understanding what happens, the cause and effect is much more aware. So, yeah, it's all different, but adults still need to be there at every step.
Yes.
Teachers, mentors, even when they push you away, it's actually where you're meant to stand more strong and not take
and you know, and I, on the adult thing, I know that parents sometimes want to be a friend to the child, their own child, and you can't always be a friend. You have to be that adult, and you have to make the tough calls. And sometimes that's very difficult.
Yep. And yeah, you said the number one thing, adults want to be their child's friend. It's a feeling for the adult. They're wanting to feel connected in a disconnecting season. They're trying to grab onto the child that they knew 5 years ago, and they're not there. So the parent goes into a little bit of, where do I fit? What do I do? And they lean in a bit harder and want to be their friend. That doesn't serve your child. There's a difference between being friendly to being a friend. They have friends. They don't need a friend. They need an adult that has the strength to put the boundaries up, even when it's unkind. But you can do that with kindness as well. You don't need to be having a boxing match with your child or preteen or teenager every time there's a communication issue or a ethics or decision-making issue. You can do it in more of a conversation, and that is a friendly way. Collaborating together, letting them know why you're making that decision and what the benefits for them are, because they need to know that, and that you still see them. I see it's
And
hard.
even though they don't want to hear what you have to say,
That's
that's the difficult part. But what I've found raising 3 boys myself, that we had to be hard. We had to put the boundaries on, and the boundaries are for their own sake and for their own safety at times.
yes.
It's when they've come through the other end that now they treat us almost like their friends, which I'm happy with that one.
You reap
Because
the rewards if you put the foundations in from early years. If you lean in and be their pillar of strength and their regulator during the childhood years. And in the teenage years, if you stand beside them and you allow them to grow and move forward and come back to you safely at every point with boundaries, communication, collaboration together, then they're going to come back. It will be a full circle. You will have the friendship, but the friendship's not needed in when they're needing you to actually put boundaries. Until, I guess, a lot of families I work with older children, I do put it to them, is your child old enough to own a house? Can they go get a job yet? Can they do any of those adult things? So don't put them in the adult category yet. If they can't do that, they still need you to be the adult.
And I think that's wonderful with what you're saying, because you're providing that almost encouragement to parents that you go through the cycle. Yes, there's going to be tough times. I'll help you work alongside your child and you or your educator to guide you, but then they come through the other end, and
they do. And it's every tough moment. For example, with the early years, the amount of tasks you have to do for your child is not a forever space. They grow up and put their own shoes on, go and shower themselves, brush their own teeth, do their own hair, walk and catch the bus to school eventually. You're not always driving them. So that's the same with this next phase. I think a lot of parents are fearful of the change as well. So it's important for parents at every stage of a child's development to check in with yourself. Am I feeling this way because I've got to do something about it? Not project it on my child and try and hold tight onto them.
And a lot of times it's with the parent with their first child. It's all new to them, so they actually don't know the answers.
And they're a first
second child's a little bit easier.
Yeah, second child can be easier, but they don't make them the same, Alan.
So, I know, I've found that. Yeah.
Copies, you should know that. You got three boys.
I know. They're all different.
3 boys are carbon copies.
No, they're not carbon copies. They're all different. But
they're all different, and they've all come, and children have come into our world not to meet our unmet needs, not to redo what we missed out or enjoyed in childhood ourselves. And the blueprint's completely different now as well, because our world was never ever as fast-paced as them or accessible. I was reflecting with a teacher not so long ago, actually, about the differences. She's a generation before me. And I said, I used to have to go in the library and get an encyclopedia for an assignment, or ask the adults in my world for answers. And I used to get so frustrated myself. I used to read the encyclopedias at home because I wanted more information, and I still felt it was closed. I didn't get enough content. Now the children just look up one word and they get billions of things.
I know.
It's a lot different, and minds are going to get, fast paced. So we have
that is then managing those. And even with the introduction of AI, there's a whole lot of management of skills and support that's going to be required in that space.
Yeah, and that's why I feel that the human to human space is actually going to be needed even more to counteract the digital space and the AI space, because the humans are going to feel very disconnected in a different way. Yeah.
Agreed. Can you tell me a little bit about your connection advantage method that you developed, and how has it helped parents turn everyday moments into opportunities for connection?
Yeah, so I've done some courses so it can be accessible. I found myself, they formed because there's only so many hours in the week I can make contact with schools, teachers, families, children. So I made these courses to make sure that there was tangible way for busy parents to see how everyday moments count and how to lean into that. So each module will cover different areas, and it will give you different strategies, not a checklist, but how you show up as a person and a bit of reflection on that. And the reason that they are modules that are self-paced is because busy parents need it at different times. And there is opportunity to work with me one-on-one for your family, specifically on your own journey and how your family is looking. And I do that quite hands-on for a few months through WhatsApp, through Zooms, and guiding with an actual strategy that is for that family. And I also extend to do intensives with the family in their homes as well. For weekends, there'll be retreats next year. That's to be continued. But based on these modules, they really do help inform an adult of where they can fit, where they can reflect on, and where they can lean in the moments that matter most in their home, and what the outcome for their child and how that is relayed to their child and their relationship with their child at every step. So that's pretty much why I created those. And they're being rolled out in schools at the moment as well. So a lot of schools have seen it as an important missing piece, whether it's the strategies or the language. And then those children that show up connected with their homes and families show up in the educational spaces so much more confident and different. It's been a big shift this year with families.
You've just got such a wealth of knowledge. I could listen to you for hours, but I know time's precious. I just have one last question to finish off with. From my observation, there seems to be more children being diagnosed with ADHD or on the spectrum, as they say. Now, I don't know whether that is the case as from when I was a child. I mean, you never heard of it. Maybe it's just the way that knowledge has, and people have got to understand how humans work much more. What advice do you have for parents of neurodiverse children in fostering a supportive and understanding environment?
Yep. So yes, you're right with that, Alan. Is neurodiversity has been a prime topic. It feels like it's growing and evolving, but it has always been a part of us. But we are also evolution. So things have changed intergenerationally that have become more neurodiverse aware. And we've got a lot more support out there. So what I'd say to those families is definitely release the guilt, release the shame, and dig deep to finding those outsourced avenues. All the therapies, all the social groups, anything that your child is needing, just dig deep and do it, especially in the early years. It's pivotal for the foundations. They will never be in the same space that you're feeling that they're in now if you dig deep with these extra things. We don't come out the womb knowing maths and English. We just don't. And these children are just missing some pathways. It can be taught, even if it's not natural, it can be taught. But the work needs to be done, and it won't always be hard and heavy. I think it's the same as what I said about the child that I saw and how I worked with children. Yep. Is see past the behavior and see the child as a message. Lean in without judgment and notice what they're needing and what that message is relaying at the moment, because that is the key. We all learn at different spaces and time. Don't compare with the others. Don't compare with what the lack of. Work on the values as well. Neurodiverse children have super brains. They truly do. The mainstream world is not made for them. There's no doubt about that. And we can help them adapt, but dig deep in those values and what makes their heart sing, what lights them up every day. Do more of that. And add in what's needed to be in society. And add that in, but really make sure, ground them, make sure they're out in nature. It sounds woo-woo, but it is not. They need to get back into their bodies. They need to get back. They've got sensory overload 24/7. They wake up, a neurotypical person wakes up with tabs shut from the day before and ready to start a fresh day. They've got 50 tabs open like a computer just from the night before that are still open when they open their eyes. They are big feelers. They feel everything. They feel their environment. They feel their emotions. So get them in the quiet, get them in their values and strengths, work with that, and get them grounded out in nature. It's really important. Take their shoes off, be at the beach, go for a walk barefoot, just swim, do something. And also ensure we're not doing too much. I know I said about the therapies and that, so it's a bit counterproductive, but try not to manage their schedule too big. have long pauses where they can actually just be and release, because then that sets them up to clear their mind, ready for the active learning or the strategies they're trying to take on from their therapist or OT or allied health professional. They've got to have some quiet. And whatever that looks like for them, let them guide that. They know what they need. And dysregulation shouldn't be feared. It should be seen as a message. What can you do in that moment for that child? There's always a warm-up phase with that too, with neurodiverse children. It's never that big explosive moment. Notice those 10 steps before and grab them then and change the course of what you're doing. So that's pretty much what I've noticed with working with them for many, many years. And I just love their brains. When you find their values and strengths, gee, they can teach you a lot.
Well, Jess, you are absolutely an encyclopedia of knowledge, although they don't use encyclopedias anymore. It's all online, but you have been absolutely wonderful. Our listeners will love listening to what you've said. If you want to know anything more about Jess, look up jessrobertson.com.au. You can see some courses that Jess is doing and how she may be able to help you, or have a look on amazon.com.au for Moments That Matter, her wonderful book that you'll get a lot of enjoyment from. Jess, you've been wonderful. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me, Alan. It was great to share with your audience.
You're very welcome. Thank you.